Hello friend, and welcome to the all-inclusive lifestyle show where we help you cultivate energy, restore balance, and keep the weight off. I'm your host, Kris J. Simpson. And now, have you ever wondered what cardio machines you should be choosing? What machines are more effective? How can you get more done with less time? On what cardio machine should you be using more consistently? I've wondered that too. And I'm gonna go through the top three, the treadmill, the spinner, and the elliptical, and let you know which one you should be spending more time on, which one's going to give you more payback in pounds for your time spent on it. So let's talk about the mechanics of the spinning bike. Although it is a really simple bike, the setup is really important, and it starts with the seat. And there's two adjustments that you can make with the seat, and it's all about the body position. And what I mean by that is that you don't want to be reaching for these bars, okay? They should really come to you in a natural way. You don't want to outreach them because that's going to cause lower back pain. And you also want to make sure that on the downward stroke that your knees are not at lockout, okay? We want full range of motion, but we don't want the lockout. Okay, so that is how you're going to adjust the seat, and it's going to be with this back adjustment. We're going to be setting ourselves up with the handlebars in a comfortable position, not overreaching. And second is the height adjustment, which is down over here, up and down. Now, the next piece of adjustment is going to be the actual handlebars. And with the handlebars, if you're an advanced spinner, you might want them down low. And down low is a more aggressive riding position and built for more advanced riders. Now, if you're a beginner, you want to make sure that the handlebars are high enough so that you're not bent over in that aggressive stance, because sometimes that's hard on your lower back, especially if you're riding for a long time. And the third most important piece is this button over here. This is a resistance. And really simple, you know, turn it clockwise here and you've got more resistance, and counterclockwise, less resistance. And that's an important variation because that controls the intensity of the ride. The last and final piece would be the pedals here. And as you can see, there's toe clips, and those are really interesting. Again, you know, rider inspired here. The bikes that you see out on the road today, they have those toe clips, and the whole idea is to strap yourself in to the pedal so that not only do you get force on the down cycle, but also on the up cycle as well. So some down force, some up force, you get double the force, and you can get a lot more out of your spinning experience. Now, these things you would have to adjust yourself unless you're in a spinning class. The spinning classes, I would advise that. You've got the energy of the group, you've got the commitment, co-accountability of the group. It's a much better experience. But now if you want to do this independently and not in a group, which is what I do, then I'm going to show you 3 different riding styles that you can play with to add some variation to your ride. Very important before you get started, it's a safety precaution. Always make sure that the resistance is on full. And when you finish the ride, put it back on full. This is a really heavy flywheel, and you'll only make that mistake once because these pedals, okay, when you get in, and if one pedal is in before the other, then what's going to happen is it's going to hit your shin, and it's going to be really hurtful. So don't get yourself in that scenario. 3 riding positions, okay? This is just the relaxed riding position. So my hands are basically on the upper bar here. It's not an aggressive riding stance, and I'm just taking my time with it. I've got, you know, moderate resistance or moderate intensity. Now I can change that intensity and ramp it up a little bit, and if I do that, then maybe I want to get into a more aggressive riding style, which will allow me to push through. And there's one more riding position I want to show you, and that would be standing off of the seat. And this is one of my favorite, actually. I get a full extension in my leg and a real big burn, which I love. Okay, it's time to put the elliptical under the microscope. Now, the elliptical is an interesting machine in that it's got an elliptical kind of motion to it, and it's sort of something between a step and climbing stairs and a walk, all put together. So it's really unique in design, and it doesn't have any impact like, for example, a treadmill or any type of outdoor running would have. So, it's perfect for people that are trying to protect their joints. And the other cool thing about ellipticals, most of them have the ability to increase the incline. Just like a treadmill, you can do that with the ellipticals these days as well, which is kind of cool. So I'm doing that right now, and it's called a cross ramp. So you should see that there's more range of motion in my legs. My knees are coming closer to my chest. Now, why would we want that? Because we want our whole leg activated. All the muscles within the leg, our glutes, our hamstrings, our quadriceps, we want them all firing. We want them all engaged, because more muscle engagement means that we're going to get stronger and fitter, and we'll have a chance to burn more calories as well. The other thing with the ellipticals is you can use the arms. I don't really like to use the arms. I've been hit by one of these arms once before, maybe that's why, I'm not sure. But they are kind of neat, the fact that you can actually get some upper body. I think the arms are along for the ride. They're really not doing much. There's not much resistance, there's not much pushing and pulling, although it might look like it. But it is great to have the upper body engaged as well, along with the lower body, which is really commonly where the muscles are going to be when you're doing your cardio. It's always going to be lower body. So that's what I like about the elliptical. What I don't like is if we end up doing too much of it, it is hard on your hips. That elliptical kind of motion and on a repetitive basis, there's a lot of wear and tear in the hips. And my hips start to hurt if I do too much of that. But overall, it's a great machine. What I like about the treadmill is that it's really simple. It's going to ask you to do something, or as long as you've got two legs and you're healthy, you're going to be able to do. It's called walking. There's not too much to it. Now, some things that I don't like about the treadmill, although it's asking us to do something that's natural, which is walking, it's on a very unnatural surface. And they do their best to make it as natural as possible, but whenever are you walking on a surface that is moving at the same time? Unless you've had too much to drink and it feels like the ground is moving, it's probably the only time you'll ever experience that. So because of that, it does cause some problems within the body. And that's why I limit my time on the treadmill. After years and years of bodybuilding, I don't have the greatest knees in the world. So I find, believe it or not, even though the surface has lots of cushion to it, it's got good shock absorption to it, I just don't feel right, or my knees don't feel right, being on a surface that is moving. It's better for me to actually go outside on a more natural surface, and my knees don't bother me under those conditions. You can also play with the variables here. I can raise the incline, all the way up to some are 10%, some are 15% degree of angle, and of course that makes it more challenging. Now, the problem I have with that though is my shins don't like it. Okay, that's the top of my leg basically, from my ankle all the way to my knee. That's the shin bone and shin splints. If you've ever had those, they're ugly. Essentially what it is the shin muscle separating from the bone, and a lot of inflammation, a lot of pain. It takes a long time to recover, and I find that any type of walking or running on an incline for an extended amount of time, that's when my shin splints happen. Okay, that's when they occur. There's really no other way to increase the intensity of a treadmill other than getting into a run. And if you're not comfortable with running, then you have to rely on the incline. These are the three giants in the cardio area of a gym. And here's the answer to the question: which one should you invest your time in? Should it be the elliptical, the spinner, or the treadmill? And the answer is all three. And this is why. Because they've all got great advantages and perhaps some disadvantages. But when you put them together into one cardio circuit, you end up getting all the good and very, very little of the bad. Because the bad usually only occurs when you do too much of it. And I already think we do way too much cardio as it is. I think when it comes to cardio, it's great to be used as a warm-up. It warms the body, it increases the circulation, it prepares us for what we can do next. What we can do next is perhaps the weight training, or maybe it's the group class. It's the more strenuous, the more intense type of exercise that we can prepare for. And cardio does a fantastic job, but too many people rely on cardio to be the be-all and end-all to get all of their results, all of their weight loss results and fitness results, and it's just not meant for that. And the other thing is, if you're putting all your eggs into that basket and spending all your time in this area, what ends up happening is the overuse injuries are inevitable. They're going to happen. They've happened with me, and they're going to happen to your knees. They're going to happen to your hips. They're going to happen to your lower back. So when you combine in a circuit different cardio machines, whatever your preference is, and limit the time, but don't limit the total time that you're in the cardio area, you get the best of all worlds, and you avoid all of those overuse injuries. I see too many people getting really fond of the treadmill, for example, and perhaps that's because it's easy, perhaps because they're holding onto the handlebars and they're decreasing, the amount of just natural gravity resistance because they've got their hands here on the handles, and it's that repetitive motion, especially when there's an incline involved, for example, that's bound to have our bodies break down eventually. We're just not meant to do something so simple in movement so continuously. We need to have diversity in our movement. We've got to be doing different things. That's how our biology was created. It was created for diversity, for doing different things, not the same thing over and over and over and over again. So combining things, I would do it like this, and this is exactly what I do. First of all, I use cardio for the warm-up, and I don't base my whole workout on it. I don't put all my eggs in that basket, that one basket. And the second thing is I split it up. And I do that for two reasons. The first one you already know, I've told you that. Overuse injuries are inevitable if we continue just doing the same exercise for long durations with lots of frequency, 3, 4, 5, 6 days per week. But I'm also doing it for this thing up here, because it's this thing up here that gets me in here. What I mean by that is I need motivation. I'm a human being, and my body wants diversity, but so does my mind. I'm biologically wired up for that, to have diversity. So I want to switch it up, and I want to do maybe 10 minutes on the treadmill, 10 minutes on the spinner, 10 minutes on the elliptical. For me, I choose 20 minutes. 20 minutes is the sweet spot for me. I don't want to do any more, and I wouldn't suggest you do any more than 30 minutes. After that, all of the results that you're getting from that cardio machine are evaporated. They're gone, all right? And if you're doing cardio for weight loss, then I want you to reconsider that as well, because there's enough studies out there that show that cardio is great for the initial 10 pounds. And then after that, it's going to require you to do something else. You're going to get into a plateau, and you're not going to see any more weight loss. So you definitely want to explore with different activities, whatever it is, recreation, sports, if it's group classes, if it's typical fitness training with weight training, whatever it is, you're going to have to mix it up eventually, because otherwise, not only are you going to get mentally bored, you're also going to get body bored. When your body gets bored, it looks like this. It's that plateau that you don't want to get yourself into, because your body's adapted to this, relatively low intensity, simplistic type of exercise. It doesn't require a lot. So there you have it. They're all your friends. They can stay in your circle, the elliptical, the spinner, the treadmill. Please do that as a warm-up, okay, or a cool down, but don't base it as your whole workout, and make sure you mix it up. It's good for your brain, it's good for your body, and just means that you'll continue to inspire, to aspire.